This proposal is based on a misunderstanding. A big part of my work over the years has included looking at things through the eyes of the internet. So I started with my MA and I did a piece called No Thing, where I asked people in chat rooms on the internet to contribute ideas for artworks that could then be made by real artists and could be exhibited. During a project based in Salford, a socially engaged project, I worked with a group and we worked on the idea of kindness and giving. And we created a series of rules that were specific to that place and its history and its heritage, and also to the town that I passed through as well. We sort of discussed those during a Facebook performance. So we came up with things like posters saying you're never far from someone who needs a cup of tea, and it ended in a coming together of the community to talk about sharing and giving, to look at artworks around what we called a gifting shop. So a recent work has been about climate change, and I wanted people to sort of start having conversations about that, how they felt about it. And we came to a sort of conclusion together that part of it was about belonging as well, and feeling like you belong to a certain job or an industry, and how sort of changing your life with regards to climate change might be a big threat to that. So I came up with a film that was inspired by the conversations that I'd had online. So I'm interested in how we have come to see the world, people in it, and places that maybe we've never been to through the eyes of social media. And also kind of how, as artists who travel in from other places, how we see a place differently as well. So I've done quite a lot of projects where I've been an artist from outside of an area, so it gives you kind of like a fresh eye, but you can kind of see things that people have become sort of kind of blind to because they're so familiar to them. So I did a project during lockdown where I took the first 5 photos that I saw on my Facebook stream and I drew them. And that was probably the first contact and the first impression that I had of Hayling Island. So one of the people on my Facebook lives in Hayling Island with her young son, and I drew a picture of him watching the telly. It was one of the first 5 photos that I saw on that day. And I also drew a picture of their greenhouse as well, which had been sort of lit up with all lights. And I kind of gathered this impression that Hayling Island was not an island or a place, a geographical place, but it was their garden and what they referred to as their garden. So when she talked about, what's happening in Hayling Island, I thought it was just this very specific little place. So that's where the misunderstanding comes from. It's kind of like this very kind of insular little island that we were kind of all forced into during kind of COVID. How can we make these very small spaces that we've been confined to kind of interesting for us? How can we keep ourselves and the people that we love happy and content? My own experience was I felt like, some days I was running a kind of funny kind of holiday camp, or we're doing a quiz at this time and we're doing this. The history of COVID and islands, specific individual islands, what people did confined to a small space. The exhibition then would follow that trajectory from that misunderstanding of very, very close islands, and a COVID kind of island, to kind of the idea of Hayling Island. I'm interested in the project working with some of the connections that I already have and gathering some of their stories, drawing and painting those impressions with probably some text and those elements, when needed, to kind of bring out some of the stories. I come into this project still with that sense of naivety, which is really useful to be able to gather stories from people who are in the area, potentially gather their kind of artistic responses, so it wouldn't just be my work, collaboration and combined work. I enjoy in my work that back and forwards between myself as an artist and a group of people who have come together because they have a different expertise. So an expertise about their area, an expertise about their lives. This is a kind of, I suppose, controversial, but I think fits with the subject matter, in that I probably wouldn't want to visit Hayling Island until putting the exhibition up. So it would be completely through my own eyes, but through the eyes of other people and what they were presenting to me. So I think that would be an interesting take, and I do think it's got a certain relevant kind of take to the time that we're living in now, where we see other people's houses through Zoom, we see the books they read, we see the photos on their mantelpiece, but we don't ever get to go and visit that place. I think that's really fascinating, and I hope you do too.